I just want to remind us all that we're 618 days into a war, and we still have 53 hostages held in Gaza. I want to welcome Danny Citrinowicz, who is a senior research in the Iran and Shi'ite Axis program in the Institute for National Security Studies. He served for 25 years in a variety of command position units in Israel Defense Intelligence, the IDI, including as head of the Iran branch in the Research and Analysis Division in the Israeli Defense Intelligence, and as a division's representative in the United States. Dennis, as I know him, welcome, and thank you so much for making the time and joining us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. And thank you for the Knesset for the support of State of Israel. And actually, thank you for the Jewish community Australia. Why now? So why now question combined actually for two main reasons. The one is connected to the situation of the Iranian Axis after the 7th of October. After the 7th of October, as you all know, Israel managed to actually undermine what we call the axis of resistance, a mainly crippled Hezbollah organization in Lebanon. We managed to cripple the organization in a way that it couldn't retaliate to any Israel activity, not in Iran, even not in Lebanon itself. And adding to that, last year, on the 26th of October, Israel attacked Iran after Iran launched another barrage of missiles against Israel. And we managed in this important attack to significantly damage the air defense system of Iran. So the connection of two actually highlight to the Israel leadership that this is the time to act, because I want to say the road to Tehran is open, but Israel, of course, won't attack for nothing. And what really happened in terms of that really convinced the Israeli leadership to attack now is the main progress that Iran made in its nuclear program. In the last year or so, Israel got reporting from its intel that the Iranians are regrouping and thinking and actually building what we call the weapons group. I think that, again, Israel, the targets of Israel for this war were eliminating the nuclear threat and, of course, the missile threat against the state of Israel. The targets for one important target for the war wasn't mentioned. It's toppling the Iranian regime. And we have to agree to the fact that it will be very hard to topple the Iranian regime, especially if only Israel will attack Iran. The Iranians are resilient. They suffered tremendously in the past in terms of the Iran-Iraqi war and other elements. So although Israel definitely has the upper hand, they don't have, we don't, I think, have the ability to undermine the regime and to topple it. The attack was very surprising to Iran. It's not that the Iranians didn't think Israel might surprise them, but they thought that it will happen only after the negotiation between Iran and the US on the Iranian nuclear file will collapse. The attack was surprising in numerous levels. First, it was the Air Force that, of course, had the road open in a way because of the damage that Iran suffered in the previous attack in the 26th of October 24. But also we had Mossad agents on the ground that actually were able to cripple down two main things. One, they attacked the missile bases of Iran. Iran was ready to launch an immediate attack on Israel if Israel is attacking Iran. So they managed to destroy those launchers that were ready to launch. But the other thing, even more importantly, that we're able to decapitate most of the Iranian senior security leadership. Among them, the Chief of Staff Bar Yeri, the commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, Salami, and another important guy named Amir Hajizadeh. He was in charge of the launching of the missiles in last April and in October. And he's a very important guy in the missile array of Iran. And the fact that the senior leadership decapitated and him himself actually made it impossible to the Iranians to immediately retaliate against the state of Israel. We still have challenges regarding Iran. The first challenge is the fact that we cannot hit all the enrichment facilities in Iran, especially one of them, the Fordow installation. Why? Because Iranian digged it very deep on a mountain, and Israel does not have the right ammunition to destroy the facility. We need the Americans with the B-2 and the B-52s, and with a special bomb called Moab, mother of all bombs, that actually can take out the installation itself. We have to remember that Iran is a highly advanced country. It's not Hamas and it's not Hezbollah. We never encountered this kind of firepower. And Iran is what we call a one-trick pony in terms of its security capabilities. So it invested a lot in two main things: UAVs and missiles. UAVs, easy to intercept, because when you launch them, it takes hours and hours, 8-9 hours, depends when you're launching them from Iran, and until it reaches Israel. And it's very easy for the Israeli Air Force to fly over Israel or using the Jordanian Air Force and intercept that over Jordan. So it's not surprising that Iran launched hundreds of missiles and none of them reached Israel. They plan to launch 1,000 missiles and they launch maybe 200, something like that, more or less. But you cannot stop everything. Although you have air superiority, the bases of the missiles are scattered all over Iran, and it's not like a concentrated base. It's a base of hundreds of kilometers when you can find the launchers everywhere. Some of them dig deep in the ground, so you cannot stop completely the firing against the state of Israel. The Iranians still have the capability to launch more and more missiles. Again, we managed to damage the capabilities, but it's not. You cannot elapse the Iranian missile capabilities. So we have to remember that Israel pays the price for this war. Thank God, not a single airplane was shot down, but civilians been murdered by the Iranian missiles. And beside that, from the economical standpoint, no flights to Israel. Everything is shut down. No one is working. No school. So again, Israel. Remember, the Israeli economy is a problematic situation since the 7th of October. So definitely, this war, and it costs a lot, almost $1 billion shekel a day. It costs a lot, and we are in a very problematic situation from the economical standpoint. And if we'll get into war of attrition, then our situation won't be better. Actually, it will be worse. I think the major risk right now is what we call the war of attrition, that we'll find ourselves in an endless war. And Iran, unlike Hamas or Hezbollah, it have the ability to sustain that for a longer period of time. But it remains to be seen. It's a fearsome challenge to us. We still have the upper hand strategically, operationally. But I think that in order to secure our achievements, we have to think hard and clear what will be our next steps in the war itself. The biggest achievement that Israel had, according to my assessment, is the fact that it was enabled to eliminate the scientists that dealt with weaponization. 9 scientists that Israeli published their names and actually published also a picture of them doing the tests regarding what we call weaponization. This is crucial because even if tomorrow Iran will enrich to 90%, it won't have anyone that can take the material and transform it into a bomb. So in that aspect, Iran was very close to a bomb. People are assessing between 6 to 12 months, more or less. Now it counts in years. Iran's ability to build today a nuclear device is extremely deteriorated because of what Israel did. So that is the good part. The medium part, in a way, is the enrichment capabilities, the ability to reach the fissile material. Here, I think Israel was a little bit late because Iran was already on the verge of the 90%. So we had already, the stockpile is enormous. I'm not sure we are able to deal with all the stockpile. This is one aspect. But also from the centrifuges, those elements that actually enrich the uranium, as mentioned, Iran still have considerable amount unless we'll use the American to deal with Natanz for those. So regarding enrichment, I'm not sure that the achievement was dramatic enough. Iran's ability to build a bomb dramatically deteriorated, but Iran's ability to preserve its nuclear capabilities are still there, unfortunately. And I think that we knew that before we got into the war because we all knew the challenge that Fordo is putting in front of Israel. So this is one aspect. Regarding the missiles, And that is another important element. We started this event with Iran having around 2,000 missiles ready. Iran is producing more or less 50 missiles per month. So definitely, assuming that we destroy a couple of hundred, launch a couple of hundred, probably they have still over 1,000. What Iran will do right now, it will calculate, because they don't know when the war will end. So they will calculate the barrages. So we see it's not that they're shooting every hour or every 6 hours. They're shooting mainly at night because of operational reasons. But they're launching at mile 1 or 2, maybe 3 barrages and a couple of dozens of missiles, because they want to preserve the capacity to launch it for the future. The preliminary assessment in Israel was that the death toll will be roughly around between 800 to 4,000 people, civilians, that will die in the first barrage that Iran will launch. So Israel activity managed to prevent that from happening, but there is no assurance that Iran won't launch any missiles. So definitely the assessment was higher than one expected, but still every person in Israel, it's for his family, etc. We cannot compare. Every person is important, but in the end of the day, I think Israel assessed it will be much worse than it will be today. The regime in Iran suffers from legitimacy problems. We saw that all over the years, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, ever since Raisi, that already died in a crash in a helicopter accident a year ago, was president. He suffered from legitimacy problems. But the regime still have the support of more or less 40% of the public, that they will support everything that he will do. And the other 60 are what we call very silent, because they were afraid from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. They're not sure that in the end of the day, the someone that will replace Khamenei will be better. So it's the devil that we know, in a way. Now, when I'm not sure, and we need to remember, look at the Iranian history, especially the Iran-Iraqi war. They are resilient people, and I think the regime actually gathered himself after the initial shock, and he was in shock, that's for sure, and managed to calm some sort of domestic unrest that he thought he would want to counter. Now, again, regime change is a tricky thing. You need a crystal ball for it. But for now, as we see the indications coming from Iran, there's nothing that will say that the regime is on the way to collapse. There were a lot of rumors about family leaving, things like that, but I think it's only rumors and nothing actually that we know that is concrete. Just remember, 80 million people country, 63 times the size of the state of Israel. So we have to take things with a grain of salt in regarding our ability to change the regime of Israel to top of the regime right now is very, very limited. Gaza is a very important element. We have to remember, the 53 hostages. We have to remember that the war it didn't end right now there. Actually, one soldier in Israel died last night in Gaza, another soldier. For Gaza, there are two approaches to how the Iranian issue will influence Gaza. The optimist one and the pessimist one. The optimist one is that because Iran is such a important or gives a lot of aid to Hamas, ideologically, militarily, money-wise, and so forth, the fact that the regime will be so weak will actually signal Hamas that he's all alone. There's no access anymore, no Iran anymore. And then it will force him, definitely after we're doing in Gaza, killing its senior leadership, then what will happen is that he will raise his hands, release the hostages, and want to reach a deal that without ending the war in Gaza, just surrendering. This is one aspect. It doesn't seem that the American side is going to intervene directly in the attack, and beside the fact, of course, they are defending the state of Israel. Of course, if the Iranian will make the mistake in attacking the U.S. forces in the region, then the U.S. will retaliate. But I don't think this is what will happen. Another decision needs to be made in a triangle between Israel, Iran, and the U.S. Israel needs to decide whether they're going to expand the attacks or trying to reach some sort of a diplomatic agreement through the U.S. That will serve its interest. The U.S. will have to decide whether to enter or not enter to the war and to see what will happen if the Iranians won't accept their offer to return back to negotiations. The Iranians say that if Israel stop attacking them, they will stop attacking Israel. I don't know if it's true or not, but this is the latest declaration coming from the Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi. But they will have to decide what to do with negotiation with the US and whether they're going to forego the enrichment in Iran. I think it's, I'm not sure they will agree to that, but we'll have to see how things will develop. I suspect there is another more hidden target that is toppling the regime. And I think that Netanyahu sees that as an historic event. And he thinks that if the US will join in, they have the ability to change the Middle East by toppling the Iranian regime. Because if the Iran regime will be toppled, I'm mistaken, and it will topple, hopefully, but we'll see, then it's a different ballgame in terms of the Middle East. You know, without Iran, I think some people might think that there will be normalization between the state of Israel and Saudi Arabia and UAE, and even Iran in a way, because as you know, before the regime came to power in the Arab Revolution in 79, we had diplomatic relations with Iran. But that actually, again, requires the US. And without the US, there is a real question, what is the strategy, the exit strategy of Israel? Now, if Israel, we have to remember there's a lot of pressure coming from the MAGA in the US not to get involved in the war, but it's a trick by Netanyahu to involve the US in endless war in Iran. So we have to remember that as well. And it seems that for now, they're not going to participate, but it really remains to be seen. But this is the major question right now that everybody asks also in Israel. The Saudis are afraid that this war will spill over to them. And MBS wants to secure his position before his father Salman will die. So he doesn't want any external interference. And in order to do so, he's promising the Iranians that no Israeli airplane will fly over Saudi Arabia to attack Iran. And I think this is what happened. My sense is that the Saudis are celebrating what's happening right now, because for them, it's weakening their biggest rivalry in the region, in the world. And they are praying that the regime will be toppled. For them, it will be a strategic win. But they cannot show this, how much they're content openly, because they don't want any friction with Iran. They still consider Iran as bigger and a threat to the state of Saudi Arabia. We have to remember also one thing that the Iranians are trying to do strategically. They want to make sure that Israel will run out of all the interceptors, the Arrow and the Thud. Because for them, while we have the Arrow and the Thud, it's actually protecting Israel, as I said, more than almost 90% interception rate. Without the Arrow and the Thud, Israel would be exposed to any Iranian attack. So the Iranians think, to the long run, how they're going to overcome the Arrow and the Thud. And we all know, I don't know how many Arrow and the Thud we have, but probably we don't have as close as the number that the Iranian has, in the missile that they have, over 1,000 probably. So this is another aspect we have to take into consideration, because the lengthier the war will be, the more problems that we have in terms of interceptions of regarding the Iranian missiles.
Danny, correct me if
everybody hoping that the war will end, but if it can end with the regime being toppled, I don't think anyone in the region will be sad.